It's time for the Jim and Terry Show.
I'm coming home, yeah, baby, I'm coming right home. And when the snow starts to fly, I'll be coming on by for Christmas. Oh, I'll be bringing some presents. Got a bag full. Be bringing some joy and some moose at me. Oh, I'll be bringing it all. I'll be bringing it all. Come this Christmas. Peace and joy, love and happiness. Oh, I'd love to give it all, give you all my very best. And I'm giving it all to you.
The Jim and Terry Show with Jim absent. Well, the seat is empty. Jim is recovering, and I wish you all well, my good friend Jim. So here's again a little slurp from the empty mug, having drank it already. Jim celebrating a release of an album and getting ready for Christmas. Maybe I think his church is doing a special walk through Bethlehem. I'm not sure whether it's to or through. Maybe it's the journey to Bethlehem. Anyway, wishing the Cedardale Church all the best in their outreach programs and their convictions that sharing this Christmas story is a way to reach the community. For Wigmore Allen Gibbons, the little schmaltzy crooning opening, I'll be home for Christmas, not the other song, I'll be home for Christmas. Now, this one is one that Keith Allen and I did to sort of say, we can do it too. We can croon, Keith does a whole angelic choir in the back there. If you listen through the instrumental, that's Keith doing about 8 parts of vocals, and right up into the rafters with his high treble sounding voices. So the Callan Choir is on full display in that song. Wigmore Allen Gibbons' 10th anniversary wraps up this December 31st. If you haven't visited the terrywigmore.com website and checked out the tab Wigmore Allen Gibbons, you'll find all of our collection from 10 years worth of efforts, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as I like to say. We have a collection, I think it's called the 10-year anniversary collection, where we put in something like 30 songs. And some of them were the ones that didn't make it on any of the albums, but are they worth any less than the ones that we did choose to collect and call an album? I'm not sure. In this day of streaming, I'm not even sure about the value of something called an album. However, be that as it may, you can check it out. All the tunes, whether they made the cut or didn't, are there. Some of them are concepts. Some of them are more incomplete ideas, but they're all there. Things that worked out, things that not so much. But still, there's always joy in the journey. Last podcast, we ended up with thinking about Christmas and whether Christmas has lost its twinkle for anyone. So I am first to stand in line and go to the front of the queue and say, yeah, Christmas is not so much what it was in my childhood what it was in my early adulthood and what it was perhaps as I raised my children to perhaps their teen years was the beginning of, maybe this is not quite all we thought it was. And the beginning of explorations of alternatives. Being more inclusive tends to mean you look at the value that other traditions are adding. And when you start to reach out and look at inclusiveness, you start to see commonalities in a lot of other traditions. You start to see value in human expression of all sorts, and the less contingent you are upon your own personal faith and belief that you might have embraced as a devout Christian. Devotion can have many kinds of manifestations, and maybe you can write in and say what your convictions are at this point. For me, it's less clinging to the traditions, less clinging to the old rugged cross, less clinging to some of the old children's choruses. There's one door and only one, and yet its sides are two, inside and outside, on which side are you? What? I sort of thought, yeah, I want to be on the inside, but that's as a kid reflecting on those choices. Is there an inside and outside? And if you're a devout person of Christian persuasion, you would, up until this point, still maintain that, yeah, there's an exclusion. And I had that expressed to me by someone in my family who said there are eternal consequences for my choices. And my choice is to do what I'm reaching here to the side to this book called The Sacredness of Questioning Everything by David Dark. If your faith does not hold up to questions, and those include intellectual, archaeological, linguistic, philosophical, then perhaps it is not the faith that you think it is that you are embracing. You should be able to articulate your faith in ways that show that it's not afraid of being questioned. And for me, some of the questions remain unanswerable within the tradition of what I knew to believe, was the dogma. I guess that's the best word, dogma of the day. And I'm less convinced that dogma has any value for anything. Even scientific dogma of the day may change, because science is all about investigation. It's about the scientific method. It's about proving and falsifying data. And you should be able to do that to make something verifiable. If it's not verifiable, then really, why are you believing it? And some people would say, well, that's the essence of faith, to believe what is perhaps a challenge for the intellect to conceive. Faith crosses that gap, the gap between credibility and what you hold to be on the other side, which is your traditions of heaven, hell, forgiveness, whatever, healing perhaps. All that's wrapped up in there. What is Christmas with all of that stripped out? With all of the Magi. Listened to a SoundCloud song this morning about the sort of an ambient cosmic thing with electronica speculating on the otherworldliness of the Magi. And the icon, the image for the song was Magi with space helmets on visiting another planet. I thought, okay, now we're starting to reach out. Now we're starting to say, why not? And I sort of like those exploratory questions. Why not? What about this? Why not? Okay, let's go there. Let's explore. But some traditions are rooted and anchored quite strongly in dogma. And you cannot question the dogma. And usually the dogma includes starting points. And you cannot argue past the starting points. So it begins to be a moot point. Why argue at all then? Dogma is what dogma is. You've believed it all these years, and you will continue to believe it, unchallenged by whatever science, whatever archaeology, whatever any discipline has added to human understanding. So Christmas, does the twinkle lose its sheen, lose its glitz and glimmer because of knowledge? I sort of hope that you can entertain some glimmer of things possible, things unseen, the mystical, the unprovable, because it's in the realm of what we call the catch-all basket for anything that we can't explain, metaphysics. I'm not sure about all of that. However, I am sure that I gather at Christmas because it is a cultural gathering, and it is time off for most employers to give their employees. And so what do we do with that time? Well, we choose to gather as a family. Now, I mentioned in a previous podcast that in closed environments, we still, well, when I go out shopping, when I go out to do groceries, whatever, I throw a mask on. Always carry a mask with me in my pocket. And I mentioned that I prefer the KN95s, the K95s. But, you know, something is better than nothing. And in this day and age of flu and RSV and kids getting sick in hospitals, again, taking a beating, you got to wonder about the value of gathering. Can you do it without gathering? Can you do it through Skype, through Zoom? Can you do it some virtual means? What is the gathering? Well, there really is no substitute for the personal interpersonal, the gathering of people who have not seen each other for a while, not in the sense of being seen as in physically present. There's something that cannot be captured in a 2D representation on a computer screen, and that's why we gather. That puts the glimmer back in the Festivus of Christmas. The Terry, waxing eloquent on the glimmer of Christmas. What's it all about for you? Right into the Jim and Terry Show. This is Terry. Without my good friend Jim, the seat remains, Jim. Take care now. Bye-bye.